The technical situation right now, it's I think about 1,500 miles to go to the Horn. We are in the lead, so that's the good news. We've been going very nicely the last couple of days.
Just got a squall coming, so we'll just put a reef in. Probably got some snow on the way.
Yeah, well, there's definitely, especially in the Southern Ocean, there's a lot of steering required and a lot of load, on the swells. So, if you've had a peel or your arms are pretty sore, you start to get tired, after an hour or so. So, no, it's definitely, you can't really drive that long. So 2 hours seems like a pretty good time.
Now a big front is coming from behind, and basically the ice gate is setting us up for the jibe, but we can't sail any further. Then we get a big wind shift and quite a bit of breeze tonight and tomorrow.
The reason we're not talking is because, it's extremely difficult, and two, we need to lock into your own job and focus on that solely to keep the show on the road. You get the odd trim call, and that is all that we'll say on deck, and all you're doing, you're cooked on 100% of the time. And you just, as driver, all you're trying to do is not break the boat and hurt the people, and get it there as fast as possible.
I doubt that they'll see less than 27 knots of breeze from here, from this next ramp up until they reach the Horn. The hope is that nobody has any further issues, because the absolute monster of a low that's forming behind could bring in with it 10 to 12 meter waves on average, or at least that's from the latest forecast. But it looks as though most of the fleet should be able to make it around safely. I would say probably early in the hours on Thursday, and they will actually have a pretty good rounding of the Horn from a wind angle perspective. It'll still be quite nasty, quite windy. But if you're 24 hours late to the Horn, I'm fearful that it's going to be just insanely ridiculous conditions, where you could be upwind in 45 knots of breeze trying to go around.
Hello from race headquarters in Alicante. We're going to have more from Anderson Reggio, the performance analyst from Vestas 11th Hour Racing, coming up. Also, Chris Nicholson from Team Axonabel. And I've got Conrad Coleman with me here to talk about the weather and what's facing the teams. But first of all, a little bit of drama on Turn the Tide on Plastic.
I was trimming the main earlier, and Freddie got taken off the helm by a massive wave and crushed my arm into the runner, and we don't really know what I've done to it yet, but it's pretty useless out here at the moment.
What's your action on first light? What's happening here?
Well, this bash crushed her arm, and we can't be sure that it's not broken, but it's going to get rough for the next couple of days, and we need to protect it so she doesn't make it any worse.
Yikes.
Well, we're going to be keeping our eye on the crew there and bringing more information just as soon as we have it. But let's take a look at the tracker. Let's see how the racing has unfolded at the moment. We are day 8 of leg 7, the Southern Ocean iconic leg with double points on offer for these teams. And so far, it has not been going the way of Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. They have bounced themselves off the ice exclusion zone for what will there hopefully be their last time, as the rest of the fleet are chasing down Team Brunel, just charging away ahead. Bauer Becking certainly finding the speed so far. But what's to come? Conrad, just talk us through how this is going to unfold.
Well, to look at what's coming up for the rest of the fleet, keep your eyes on Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. They had to get out of dodge. The reason that they bounced straight up off that ice limit was to get out of the worst of the wind, and that is currently chasing the rest of the fleet. There's a cold front that's going to come over them within the next sort of 4 hours or so, and then a little bit of a reprieve. Strong sailing and westerlies, but a massive sea state. And so finally winding into the approach to Cape Horn, they're going to have plenty of wind, potentially 30, 40, maybe more knots of wind. also potentially 8, 9, 10 meters of swell, and it's only going to get worse if the boats are late. And so it's kind of like sort of stepping out onto an oncoming freight train. You just need to run as fast as you possibly can. However, conditions are brutal out there, as we saw when I spoke earlier with Chris Nicholson.
It's actually reasonably wet and cold, I've got to say. Like, I just woke up 10 minutes ago and just got dressed, and so it's quite uncomfortable, really. Wet and cold. It's blowing 30 to 35 knots, and boys got the hammer down upstairs.
It certainly looks like it. You don't need to convince me. The images do all the talking.
It is really quite difficult downstairs, and I suspect we're having more injuries occur downstairs than upstairs. You know, like we're now currently doing 28, 29, 30 knots, and and that usually ends in a nosedive of some description. If you're not hanging on to something, you fall over. So the name of the game is to be hanging on to something at all times when you're moving around.
Watching you jump up and down, and you talking about how dangerous it is on the inside of the boat, it seems to suggest that going fast is dangerous. But actually, in terms of the overall boat, with the weather system chasing you all the way to Cape Horn, staying fast is staying safe. Can you tell us a little bit more about that sort of paradox?
In leg 2, when we leg 3, when we damaged the mast track, and we had to slow the boat down. As soon as you slow the boat down, then you get hit by all the waves that are travelling much faster than you. So at the moment, we're probably averaging 24 or 25 knots, which is roughly the speed at which these waves move. So it actually is less dangerous, even though we surf the waves very fast and stop at the bottom. It's a better scenario than going slow. And then the other reason also is the faster we get there around the Horn, the faster we get out of the Southern Ocean and into warmer climates. As much as we love it down here right at the moment, we actually want it to end.
Now it looks like you're being chased by a pretty brutal cold front at the moment. Can you explain how you set the boat up so that you can adapt to changing conditions?
At the moment, because it's fast running, it's the fastest the boat can go. Everything's shifted as far back in the boat as possible. Everyone's jammed as much equipment as they can under my bunk, so it no longer can. It's right up on its side at about 40 degrees, and it's just full of, I've got to be a contortionist just to get into the bunk.
And in terms of the sails, we've been seeing people sailing with the Fro or the fractional Jenica, the J2 and J3. It's pretty impressive to see that you've still got the triple header set up, even in such extreme conditions.
It's on its limit for sure. It's 30 to 35 knots in the Southern Ocean. 30 to 35 knots is it's a very strong wind. It's all the way down to the surface, whereas normally in warmer climate, that 30 knots would be roughly, I guess, equivalent to probably 40 in a warmer climate. It's a really dense, solid wind. So it is a lot of breeze to be carrying this amount of sail area. You get a little concerned that, when you broach, and we do a couple of broaches, that you don't have too much sail area up, not to be able to pull the boat back away again and get going.
Chris Nicholson on board Team Axonabel, and you don't need to imagine how challenging it is to try and helm one of these boats through these conditions. Actually, we can take you right there. Have a look at this footage here. This is Team Axonabel battling with these wind and these waves, and this is really on a knife edge stuff.
It is. They're on the very edge of absolute control, blazing along, even with now 2 reefs and the fractional Jenica or the Fro. But look at this. You've got a squall on one side. You've got 35, maybe 40 knots of wind. Nico there on the helm is really right in a knife edge of control. And you've got so much responsibility on your shoulders as the helmsman there, because you've got a boat that is on the edge of a wipeout. You've got more wind coming in, and you've got the lives of everybody, or at least the well-being of all of the people on board the boat.
And
It's incredible.
I mean, at that point as well, it's fairly safe to say that this is not about trying to go fast. This is just trying to stay in control. And have a look here about what happens when you lose that control, when you don't have anywhere to go. This was Team Brunel and, well, Conrad. I mean, this is just about as dramatic as it gets.
Well, what goes up must come down. So they got completely launched off a wave. And then as you can see here, the bow comes out. You basically run out of water underneath the boat. And then you pound into the back of the wave ahead. So that's called going down the mine. And this was a beautiful shot here from Jan with his incredible drone skills. It's pretty intense. It's pretty scary to do that during the day. Can you imagine going down the mine at night? Because it means that you're losing all visual reference. You've got spray everywhere, and you even lose sight of your instruments when all of that spray is coming into your face. So, and every time that the boat does that, it shock loads the rig. You know, the boat goes into a wave, it stops, the rig wants to keep on going, and so I know from experience that you can be sitting there on the wheel and you can hear that backstay creaking behind you, and that is terrifying.
Well, that was the view from the air. We've seen from the deck as well, but this is the view from down below as these boats start sailing through these waves. Take a look at this here. This is Dongfeng Race Team and just how much bucking and bashing around this boat is doing.
Well, I mean, as we saw with the Chris Nicholson clip, it is hard work just to sit down, just to maintain yourself safe in one place. And as he said, you know, it's hard to know how to look after yourself when you're inside the boat, because when you're on deck, you get that sort of visual stimulus of bam, the boat going into a wave, the spray coming back, you hang on, you know that it's coming, but when you're down below, there are no windows, remember, so you don't know when that next impact is coming. And so you're having to brace all the time, otherwise you get injured. And actually, historically, you get injured more frequently down below inside these boats than up on deck.
And, you know, talking about being down below, this is the area where you're trying to get ready to go up on deck, where you're trying to get your sleep, where you're trying to cook your food. And the conditions right now, they are not comfortable. Alex Go on Sununkai Scallywag just talks us through just how cold it's becoming.
Yeah, the last 2 days it's been bloody cold. I think last night was like 3 degrees or something. Yeah, in the morning. So, yeah, it's ridiculous. We're doing doing some short little stints downstairs on your watch to make it work. It's just so bloody cold. You can't spend the whole time up there. It's impossible. So, yeah, it's been good. Get to come down and have like a 15-minute breather.
Well, there you go. You can see from the breath coming onto the camera there, seriously cold. But let's just remember where we started. 7 days ago, as we were leaving Auckland, this was like a beach party. We had incredible temperatures, 22 degrees, shorts and t-shirt for the sailors. But then as they started to sail down south, the temperature plummeted. More and more layers coming on, the wind and the waves getting more and more ferocious, and now just 3 degrees the temperature. You add in the wind chill from this unbelievable 30, 40 knots of breeze, you add in the waves as well, and we're going to get some very, very cold sailors. And they've only got one bag, they've only got one change of clothing.
That's right. And they're going to have all of the layers on right now. Indeed, a couple of days ago, I heard that Martine Grail put on every single piece of clothing that she had on board, and frankly, the temperature is getting colder and colder. So she's going to be freezing.
And when it gets this cold, there's really only one way to keep warm. You've got to put in some physical exercise. The boat demands that.
There's plenty of that.
But you've got to eat more as well. And I know, Conrad, you've been taking a look at how much these sailors have having to eat just to, well, basically survive.
How to survive, how to keep the mass on, because there's so much stress, there's so much strain, and even when you are in your bed, you're working hard. You know, you can be physically tensed while you're sleeping, as we saw with Chris Nicholson in that previous clip. You know, it's incredibly physical just sitting down, and then, you know, not even taking into account the fact that you're getting sprayed in the face all the time. So, I wanted to try and put some numbers on it. Now, incredible athletes that work really hard, namely Olympic swimmers, they can be burning maybe 6,000 calories per day, maybe a little bit more, or the America's Cup, the grinders, the engines on board the AC50s in the last edition of the race, they were burning 6,500 calories. We've been talking to dietitians who put together the food packs for all of the sailors that are currently down there, and the estimated burn for the big guys at least is around 8,000 calories per day. So let's try and see what that looks like. If you please. Ah, lovely lunch you've got there. Now, between a Big Mac, a Big Fries, and whatever this is, a McFlurry, we've got about 1,500 calories there. So that's a solid lunch. And let's try and visualize what 6,000 calories look like. So we'll add one of those. We'll add some more chips. and we'll add another McFlurry. Okay, 3,000 calories, and we're just warming up. All right, so we'll add another chips, and maybe another one. Okay, fantastic. Big Mac, third one. Let's add a fourth one.
Yep.
All right, fantastic. Okay, and then 2 more McFlurries. You know, there are snow flurries here in the office in Alicante, not just down on the boats as well. So this represents 6,000 calories. Can you imagine trying to eat that in 24 hours? That's going to make you sick. But anyway, this is not a Morgensporlock film. We're not doing supersized here. So we'll get rid of McDonald's for now. Let's talk about the fact that they are actually eating freeze-dried food, you know, much like this one here. So, you know, I've talked about how you prepare freeze-dried a little bit, you know, that you whack some hot water in it, wait for 10-15 minutes, and that allows people like Chris Nicholson to wake up half an hour before, time to get dressed. He can have his food cooking, and then he can have a hot meal just before he gets on board, out into the cockpit. So the way that this works for an offshore sailor is that you might start off with, you know, a little bit of muesli or something like this. That's about 400 calories. You might eat 3 of those during the course of a day, so if you can hang on to that. And then you're going to try and knock down a couple of curries. So we've got some of those. And then my personal favorite is this pad thai, particularly because it's got peanut butter in it. And down in the south, in the Southern Ocean, oh my God, peanut butter. That's just all I can say. It just blows my mind. So we're going to add a couple more of those, and so we're getting up to a pretty serious amount of food here. And into those, a couple of snacks, like this sort of mango meal here.
Thank you.
A few peanuts, a couple of chocolate bars, and then you might sort of wash that down or add a little bit of olive oil to all of those freeze-dried meals. And then finally, you can get, you know, up to 6,000 calories here, like we've got. But even that is not going to be enough. It's physically impossible to eat 6,000 calories of freeze-dried per day, and so we're going to be seeing haggard, tired, and skinny sailors by the time that they make it to Itajaí. And so, yeah, tough sailing out there. Hang in there, boys and girls. Anyway, to give you another perspective on what life is like out there, let's return to my previous call with Anderson Reggio.
We certainly learned a lot last race throughout the course of the race as Team Alva Medica, but the benefits of coming together the way that this team did for this go-around was that we brought together a number of sailors who were on different boats last time. So we had the benefits of bringing all of that experience from these boats last edition together into one house. What's been really surprising is how much we've continued to improve over the course of this edition against what were our metrics. Our 100% benchmark just keeps going up, up, and up as we're finding new and interesting ways to exploit every last tenth of a knot of speed. So even though our team, it does have a good core that was similar to last race, bringing in people from the outside from other teams from last edition has proven tremendously beneficial for our learning capabilities.
Can you give those of us at home a little bit of an insight into the team? You know, what's the special sauce that makes this team tick?
I've said it from the beginning that I don't think that there is a team in the race that has better team cohesion than ours. Everybody gets along tremendously well. Everybody's taken very much a do-your-job approach. So if everybody focuses on their job and does their job as well as they possibly can, then the team's going to be doing phenomenally well in this race. And we've seen that. We've seen our performance improve and doing so just with laughter and joy the whole way around.
Well, you talk about laughter and joy. This team has also had its more than its fair share of challenges on the water as well. How have you seen the team sort of come back from the challenges after the accident by Hong Kong?
Yeah, I mean, the incident coming into the finish in Hong Kong in leg 4 was very taxing. It was a very challenging month for the team to come back from that. It was, for most of us on the team, something that we obviously never expected to have to go through, but we went through it together as a team and have come back stronger mentally and physically than we probably were earlier.
3 years ago, Alva Medica was the first boat around Cape Horn, and this was really, well, at least as a fan watching the race then, it was the moment that everything sort of seemed to click into place that eventually sort of led to their great performance overall and their win in the last leg. How have you, as sort of performance and meteorology manager, helped prepare the team for this moment so that they can focus on the job and pull out this great performance?
The primary responsibility of my job is to make sure that the decision makers on the boat of Charlie and Simon really have as much rest as possible. I don't consider my job to be successful unless I'm the most exhausted person on the team. It's poring over all of the data and building that proper playbook for what we anticipate the conditions to be. And in this circumstance, in the Southern Ocean, identifying those areas of this leg in particular where there's a lot of uncertainty. You know, you've got the Southern Ocean is notorious for big breeze, big waves, but also highly unpredictable conditions. And especially when you come around Cape Horn, the predictability of those conditions statistically goes down as well. So you're looking for those circumstances where you can identify where the weather models might be incorrect and how you can adjust your playbook accordingly by using other resources that might be at your disposal. And that's all built into, again, what we refer to as the playbook for the leg.
Anderson Reggio keeping his cards close to his chest. And that's just about everything we've got time for today. Some real hardship for the sailors and their equipment out in the Southern Ocean. We are going to be keeping our eyes glued to the boat feeds. You can as well, of course, via the website, and the tracker is all there. The next few days promises to be very, very intense. And we're going to leave you with just how unbelievable this race has become. Some amazing images from Leg 7. We will see you tomorrow.
Here, Volvo, Ocean 65. Your boat is not dry.
Probably got some snow on the way. Fun?
I want to get to Cape Horn now. Right now.